Welcome to Dolphin Dive Daily, your go-to spot for everything Miami Dolphins. If you bleed aqua and orange, hit that subscribe button and join the pod. Tyreek Hill's emotional outburst during a recent press conference has sent shockwaves through the NFL community, raising eyebrows and igniting a firestorm of speculation about the internal dynamics within the Miami Dolphins. Hill, a player whose electrifying speed and agility have often made him the focal point of his team's offensive strategy, appeared visibly distressed as he addressed reporters, his words punctuated by pauses and an almost palpable sense of frustration. According to multiple sources present at the press event, Hill did not hold back, openly declaring that he was tired of the toxic atmosphere pervading the Dolphins' locker room, a statement that has since reverberated across social media, drawing immediate attention from fans, analysts, and rival teams alike. The timing of this revelation is particularly notable, given the Dolphins' recent performances on the field, which have been a mix of high-octane wins and inexplicable collapses, creating an environment ripe for tension and scrutiny. Hill's candid acknowledgement of the team's internal challenges raises critical questions about leadership, accountability, and the overall morale of a squad that has been under immense pressure to deliver both in the regular season and in playoff scenarios. Observers have speculated that Hill's statement may be the tip of an iceberg, hinting at deeper conflicts between star players, coaching staff, and management, conflicts that could have been simmering beneath the surface for months. The public nature of this outburst underscores a growing trend in professional sports where players increasingly feel compelled to voice concerns openly rather than contain them within team confines, signaling a potential shift in how athletes interact with media and the public. For the Dolphins, this moment represents a crossroads, as management must now navigate the delicate balance between supporting their star wide receiver while also addressing the underlying issues that have culminated in such a dramatic display of emotion. The ripple effects of Hill's remarks are expected to influence team dynamics, fan sentiment, and possibly even trade rumors, as other franchises may now see an opportunity to engage with a talented yet reportedly unsettled athlete. While the Dolphins' front office has yet to issue a comprehensive response, insiders suggest that internal meetings are already underway, aiming to assess the scope of the tension and formulate strategies to mitigate its impact on the team's cohesion and performance. Hill's revelation, though alarming to some, also shines a light on the human aspect of professional sports, reminding audiences that behind every highlight reel and touchdown celebration lies a network of relationships, pressures, and emotional labor that can profoundly affect a player's experience and expression on and off the field. Fans have reacted with a mixture of concern, support, and curiosity, as social media platforms overflow with discussions dissecting every nuance of Hill's words, body language, and the potential implications for the Dolphins' season trajectory, creating a narrative that continues to evolve in real time. Analysts and former players alike have weighed in, with some emphasizing the importance of mental health and team culture, while others speculate about the practical consequences for contract negotiations, game strategy, and locker room hierarchy, illustrating the multi-layered complexity of interpreting such a high-profile moment. The discourse surrounding Hill's statement is thus far from settled, as each day brings new interpretations, rumors, and potential developments that could redefine the Dolphins' season and reshape the broader conversation about player agency, team accountability, and the emotional toll of competing at the highest levels of professional football. Amidst this swirling maelstrom, Hill's vulnerability has become a focal point, challenging traditional narratives of stoicism and resilience in the NFL, and prompting an ongoing debate about the balance between personal well-being and professional obligations. What remains certain is that Tyreek Hill's heartfelt admission has cracked open a window into the often hidden realities of team life, leaving fans, commentators, and stakeholders alike to wonder what steps will be taken next and whether the Dolphins can successfully navigate the storm of emotions, expectations, and speculation that now surrounds one of their most dynamic and celebrated players. The story continues to unfold, with every press interaction, team announcement, and social media post feeding into a collective anticipation about the future of Hill and the Dolphins, as the league watches with a mix of intrigue, sympathy, and professional curiosity. Tyreek Hill's candid and emotionally charged statement during the press conference has ignited a whirlwind of speculation, rumors, and intense debate across the NFL landscape, leaving fans, analysts, and insiders scrambling to interpret the deeper implications of his words. Hill, widely recognized for his unparalleled speed, agility, and game-changing presence on the field, appeared visibly frustrated, his voice trembling at moments as he expressed that he is tired of the toxic atmosphere in the Dolphins' locker room, a statement that has since spread like wildfire across social media, sports talk shows, and fan forums. Observers noted the unusual intensity of his delivery, which was far removed from the typical carefully measured public statements athletes often make when addressing sensitive issues. Instead, Hill's remarks felt raw, personal, and undeniably human, revealing a level of vulnerability rarely displayed in high-pressure professional sports environments. The timing of this revelation is particularly intriguing, coming at a moment when the Dolphins are navigating a season filled with both promise and unpredictability, their performances oscillating between electrifying victories and bewildering losses that have fueled speculation about team cohesion, leadership effectiveness, and locker room dynamics. According to insiders who spoke under anonymity, Hill's frustration may reflect deeper, long-standing tensions within the squad, hinting at possible disagreements among star players, divergences in coaching philosophy, or communication breakdowns between players and management. Analysts have already begun dissecting potential ramifications, considering how such candid disclosures could impact team morale, fan perception, sponsorship relations, and even future trade considerations, as rival franchises may interpret Hill's openness as both a vulnerability and an opportunity to engage with a world-class talent who appears increasingly unsettled. Meanwhile, the Dolphins' management faces a delicate balancing act. They must demonstrate support for one of their marquee athletes, while simultaneously addressing the underlying cultural and operational issues that Hill's comments have brought into the public eye, a challenge complicated by the intense scrutiny of both media and fans. The situation has sparked a broader conversation within the NFL about the mental and emotional toll on players, team dynamics, and the pressures inherent in performing at an elite level, with many former players weighing in to highlight the importance of fostering positive, supportive environments in professional sports. Hill's statements also invite reflection on the evolving relationship between athletes and the media, as players increasingly bypass traditional, filtered channels to express genuine grievances, effectively reshaping the landscape of public discourse in sports. The immediate reactions from fans were a mix of empathy, astonishment, and curiosity, with online communities dissecting every nuance of Hill's words, gestures, and demeanor, speculating on whether this public revelation might catalyze a broader shift in team culture, influence strategic decisions on the field, or even signal potential movement in the trade market. As the story continues to evolve, the Dolphins find themselves at a critical juncture, needing to address not only the immediate fallout from Hill's disclosure, but also the structural and interpersonal factors that allowed such tension to accumulate, a task complicated by the high stakes of a professional football season where every narrative, performance, and rumor can have tangible consequences. Observers remain keenly aware that Hill's outburst is more than just a fleeting moment. It is a potential inflection point that could reshape the Dolphins' internal culture, alter public perceptions, and redefine how athletes navigate the complex interplay between performance, personal well-being, and public accountability, setting the stage for a saga that will likely reverberate through locker rooms and media outlets for weeks, if not months. The reverberations of Tyreek Hill's emotional press conference continue to ripple through the NFL, creating a storm of speculation, analysis, and conjecture that seems almost impossible to contain, as every insider, journalist, and fan becomes a participant in trying to decipher what his candid declaration about the Dolphins' toxic atmosphere truly means for the team's present and future. Hill, a player whose on-field heroics have repeatedly altered the outcome of games with breathtaking speed and instinctive playmaking, has now inserted himself into a narrative that transcends athletic performance, touching on issues of team culture, leadership, mental health, and interpersonal dynamics that are often relegated to whispers behind closed doors. The moment was electric not merely because of what he said, but because of how he said it. His voice carried a mixture of exhaustion, frustration, and vulnerability, emotions rarely allowed to surface publicly in a league that prizes stoicism and competitive composure above all else. Multiple sources within the organization suggest that Hill's statement may not be an isolated expression of discontent, but could represent a broader sentiment shared by other players who feel constrained, undervalued, or frustrated by internal politics, hierarchy disputes, and inconsistent coaching directives, issues that have allegedly persisted throughout the season without adequate resolution. Analysts are quick to note that the Dolphins' record this season, a combination of spectacular victories and inexplicable collapses, likely exacerbates these tensions, creating fertile ground for resentment and fatigue, especially among key contributors who shoulder disproportionate responsibility for the team's success. Social media has erupted in response, with viral clips of Hill's press conference prompting endless debate. Fans dissect every syllable, gesture, and inflection, trying to gauge whether this is a temporary emotional lapse, a strategic message to management, or a genuine plea for cultural reform within the organization. The Dolphins' front office, meanwhile, reportedly convened emergency meetings immediately after Hill's remarks, attempting to assess the potential fallout, craft an appropriate public response, and internally strategize ways to repair the team's cohesion before the mounting media scrutiny begins to affect on-field performance. Former players and analysts have weighed in with a variety of perspectives, some emphasizing the importance of mental well-being and the human cost of professional football, while others speculate about the strategic consequences, potential trade implications, and long-term ramifications for team morale, all of which complicate an already delicate situation. Hill's outburst also underscores a broader evolution in the relationship between athletes and the media, illustrating a shift toward more direct, authentic communication, where players feel empowered, or perhaps compelled, to speak openly about frustrations rather than adhere to traditional norms of guarded statements and managed narratives. The intensity and immediacy of the reaction have left the Dolphins in a precarious position, balancing the need to support one of their marquee players while addressing structural, cultural, and relational deficiencies that Hill's words have illuminated, making this a moment that will likely define the team's internal culture and public image for the remainder of the season and beyond. Still with us? Then show some love. Hit that like button and let us know in the comments. What's your take on the Fins this week? Tyreek Hill's revelation about the Dolphins' internal climate has cast a glaring spotlight on issues that have long simmered beneath the surface of the team. And while many fans and analysts are still grappling with the emotional weight of his words, the implications extend far beyond the confines of a single locker room or press conference. The underlying tension he described is not a trivial concern. It speaks to fundamental questions about leadership efficacy, the quality of communication among coaches and players, and the ability of a team to maintain a cohesive, motivated, and supportive environment amidst the relentless pressures of a professional football season. Sources within the organization have hinted that Hill's public acknowledgement of his frustration is symptomatic of unresolved interpersonal conflicts, power struggles, and misalignments between star players and coaching philosophy, dynamics that, if left unaddressed, could have cascading consequences not only for team performance, but also for broader organizational stability. Social media platforms have exploded with speculation, memes, and impassioned discussions, amplifying the intensity of the narrative and transforming what might have been an internal concern into a public saga that invites scrutiny from every corner of the football community, from casual fans to seasoned analysts and former athletes. Experts argue that Hill's outburst represents both a personal catharsis and a strategic signal, sending a message to management, teammates, and the public that conditions within the Dolphins organization may be untenable if not addressed promptly and decisively, raising the stakes for leadership to act swiftly and transparently. In parallel, the situation has sparked renewed debate about the broader cultural expectations in professional sports, challenging traditional notions that players must internalize dissatisfaction or maintain stoic facades, highlighting instead the human realities of stress, fatigue, and emotional labor that accompany elite athletic performance. The timing of this disclosure, amid a season marked by both notable victories and unexpected setbacks, only intensifies scrutiny as commentators dissect the potential correlation between internal strife and on-field inconsistencies, theorizing that Hill's frustration may reflect systemic issues that extend beyond any individual performance. Rival teams are reportedly monitoring the situation closely, considering how internal discord could present both challenges and opportunities in negotiating future trades, drafting strategies, or even attempting to lure high-impact talent into their own ranks. Meanwhile, the Dolphins' management faces the unenviable task of balancing immediate damage control with long-term cultural reform, needing to provide support for Hill while simultaneously demonstrating accountability and leadership to prevent the narrative from destabilizing the rest of the roster. Conversations among fans, commentators, and insiders have taken on a near-mythic quality, with each new rumor, unnamed source, or speculative report further feeding the sense that the Dolphins are at a pivotal juncture, one that could reshape both their current season and the public perception of the franchise. At the core of the discussion is Hill himself, whose vulnerability and honesty have transformed him from a mere superstar athlete into a symbol of the human dimension of professional football, raising questions about the balance between individual well-being and collective organizational expectations in a high-stakes, high-pressure environment that tolerates little error or emotional disclosure. Tyreek Hill's public expression of dissatisfaction with the Dolphins' internal environment has sparked a fascinating and multi-layered conversation about team dynamics, player agency, and the increasingly visible interplay between athlete emotion and media narratives, creating a scenario that combines elements of personal revelation, professional risk, and strategic maneuvering. His choice to speak openly about being tired of the toxic atmosphere represents a striking departure from the traditionally reserved communication norms in the NFL, where players have often been expected to maintain composure, avoid controversy, and internalize grievances to preserve team unity and public perception. This act of vulnerability has prompted intense discussion among fans, analysts, and former players, many of whom are debating whether Hill's comments reflect broader systemic issues within the Dolphins organization, including inconsistent leadership, misaligned coaching strategies, and fractured interpersonal relationships among teammates that have been festering without sufficient resolution. Multiple insiders suggest that Hill's words may resonate with other players who share his concerns but have previously been reluctant to voice them publicly, potentially signaling a tipping point in locker room culture that could redefine how the team navigates conflict, accountability, and cohesion moving forward. Media outlets have capitalized on the drama, dissecting every nuance of Hill's speech, his pauses, facial expressions, and tone, fueling speculation about whether his comments are a calculated negotiation tactic, an emotional plea for structural change, or both. Social media has amplified the impact exponentially, creating an environment where fan theories, insider rumors, and expert analyses intersect in real time, generating a feedback loop that increases pressure on both Hill and the Dolphins' leadership. The team's management is reportedly engaging in high-level discussions to determine an appropriate response, balancing public relations considerations with the need to address the internal dysfunctions that Hill's statement has highlighted, a delicate equilibrium that will test leadership skill, diplomacy, and organizational vision. Rival franchises are observing closely, interpreting Hill's public frustration as both an indicator of potential vulnerability and a signal of opportunity, potentially influencing trade discussions, draft priorities, and strategic recruitment considerations for the months to come. Amidst all this speculation, the human element of Hill's message is perhaps the most compelling. A superstar athlete, renowned for his extraordinary talent and competitive drive, exposing the emotional toll of navigating an environment he perceives as hostile, stressful, and unsustainable. Fans have responded with a mixture of empathy, surprise, and analytical curiosity, dissecting not only the implications for the Dolphins' performance, but also the broader conversation about mental health, team culture, and the evolving role of athlete transparency in professional sports. The incident underscores a fundamental shift in sports media narratives, where once players were silent. Now they are active participants in shaping public discourse, asserting personal agency, and challenging organizational norms, a development that may redefine relationships between players, coaches, and fans for years to come. That's a wrap for today's dive. If you're loving the content, share it with a fellow Dolphins fan, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a splash. Fins up!